lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and with me today I have another dope indie cartoonist. I have Mooradian with me, and we're here to talk about her work, comics, and yeah, I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So, I always do this with everybody. First time I'm talking to them, I always like to kind of hear a little bit about them, like who, a little bit about yourself. How you got into comic books as a fan, and then in turn, how you turned that into wanting to create your own stuff.
So I was always interested in writing and drawing and telling stories as a kid. Before I went to college, I was considering going to film school because making movies is really similar to making comics. And I landed on being a comic artist because I think it's the way that allows me to be the most in control of my work. And that's something I really value. I like being my own leader. Yeah, so that was pretty much my trajectory. I was always interested in being a storyteller.
Okay. And what were some of the first, what were some of your first comic books, or who were some of the creators that were really influential to you?
So as a kid, I read a lot of Marvel, and I loved Wolverine specifically. I don't really read Marvel anymore. I'm not a huge Marvel fan at this point in my life. The writing just doesn't flow in a way that I like. So right now I am in love with the Sandman series by Neil Gaiman, obviously. I just started reading Hellboy, and that is amazing.
It's so good.
Yeah, so those are my big inspirations right now.
All right, cool. And so how long have you been, working on your own stuff? Like the book that I got from you, it's like very unique, you mix prose, it's just it's not like a straightforward, just a straightforward one story, right? It's an anthology. Was this your first published work, or did you do stuff before that?
So the book I sent you, Strangewood, is the first thoroughly published book that I've done where it has a barcode and ISBN and all of those things. But I have made a ton of comics previously to that. I just sold them personally throughout my friend group, though.
Can you talk a little bit about the project for anybody that hasn't, obviously that I have it, but just to kind of share with people, kind of what it's about and what your main goal with that book was, like I said, since it is such a unique project.
Yeah, so that was my senior thesis in college. I just graduated a couple months ago. And the point was to fully direct my own piece. So I did all of the work for a single comic. I wrote it and paced myself, and I drew everything. And the point was to kind of make a combination of the types of comics that I'd like to make in my life all into one anthology. So we have some silly stuff, we have some more serious comics, we have shorter form comics and longer form comics. So this is a way to get all the things that I love into one package.
And what you talked about, other stuff that you produced, were they more zines? How did you kind of distribute that stuff? Was it just word of mouth? Would you go to festivals, stuff like that? What was your main source of getting your work out there?
Yeah, so my other work before Strangewood is pretty much zines, 12-page kind of length. And I would pretty much sell it and get popularity around my work through my friend group. Going to art school is super helpful, and having other people who are also interested in the things that you make. And then posting on social media and trying to connect through artists who I haven't met personally, but who I know would connect with my work online.
Cool. And what's the next step? What are you currently working on? Are you still in art school? Have you finished art school?
So I'm all finished with school. And so right now I'm working on a project that is still mostly secret. But I just wrote a script for a bit of a longer form comic, and I'm getting it back from my editor in a couple of days. And then I'm going to really start inking it, penciling everything. And hopefully with this comic I'm making right now, I'm hoping to get it published by a larger publishing company, but we'll see if that happens.
Nice. Well, I hope that happens. So what types of stories like are you looking to tell? Are you going to tell do you want to tell more fictional? Do you want to tell more like kind of memoir type stories, slice of life? What's the genre that you really want to kind of stick to?
I'm primarily interested in fiction, although memoir style is also interesting to me. And I always want my stories to be horror themed because the horror genre is the thing I connect to the most. I think it has the most opportunity for creativity, as well as a little bit of supernatural fantasy mixed in with real world items. That's really my favorite.
Cool. And like besides like the stuff that you're currently reading, what other creators like overall, maybe not necessarily right now, but that have really been hugely influential, even maybe outside of comic books?
Music is always very influential on my work. Oftentimes, I'll make a comic that is entirely based off of a song or an album, and that happened a couple times in Strangewood. Um, Artists that have been particularly influential on my comics have been Hop Along and their vocalist Frances Quinlan, um, as well as Sufjan Stevens. Um, I also made this really stupid zine about Metallica, and it's like
Awesome.
it's so dumb and lame, and I love it so much. So music of all genres has been really helpful for kind of streamlining my thoughts when writing.
So would you say that like because I know that I've asked this before because like I love music too. Like I but if I'm doing something where I'm trying to like let's say I was writing, I can't listen to music because then I start like I'll be like singing the song or whatever in my head and I can't focus. So I have to turn it off. Even if I'm just listening to like a score of a movie, which sometimes I'll put a score on because like I just, like from whatever. And even then I start thinking about the movie and what scene that was from. So is music something that you're able to listen to while creating? Or do you just like take inspiration from it and then go create kind of thing?
Um, Both. If it's
Okay.
music with lyrics that I'm really connecting to, I'm gonna go find the specific lyrics that are inspiring me and write them down somewhere so that I can reference it while I'm creating. But primarily, what I do actually is I put on movie soundtracks, like you said, that are related, like in theme
Mhm.
to the work that I'm making. My favorite one is the soundtrack for the movie Mandy. It's like super ominous and kind of like large sounding, the soundtrack. So it's really good for setting a tone while I'm writing and helping me stay focused.
And in terms of actually no, for first, what movies? I mean, you talked about like you were thinking about maybe doing filmmaking. What films or like maybe directors even too were like really or are still kind of influential or some of your favorites, even just some recs that you want to.
Yeah, totally. So like I said, I love horror in general, especially super weird stuff like Mandy. That movie is so good. It has Nick Cage in it, and
Yeah,
it's like super weird, and the writing is so bizarre, and I love that. I also love The Witch, or really anything by Robert Eggers is so good. Psycho is a classic. Everyone loves Psycho. And some old, like 20s and 30s horror films, like Bela Lugosi's Dracula and Faust, and those kinds of things, I love as well.
awesome, man. And then in terms of like your creating, like I said, like your book is very mixed media, which I really dug because especially in comic books, like you can get, I don't want to say so much of the same, but when you find something unique that really stands out, like it stays with you and it's something that you don't forget. Like your book is definitely one of those things where I love like you photocopy your actual writing and stuff like that. What is your preferred medium to work in? Do you do digital? Do you do traditional? And then in terms of not just comic books, do you dabble in painting as well? Something like that.
Yeah, so pretty much all my comics are going to be pencil and ink on paper that I'm going to scan and put into Photoshop and finish the colors and textures digitally. So I usually lay in like transparent textures of like cardboard or pulpy paper or whatever to make things feel like nice and gritty. And then outside of comics, I do like painting. I like painting with ink and watercolor and that kind of thing. And I like being artistic in all aspects of my life as well. So I like to sew and, refurbish furniture and style hair and all sorts of that kind of stuff.
It's funny. It sounds like my wife. She does everything. Besides like the book that you talked about that you're working on, is there anything else that you have thoughts of wanting to do? Is there any like publishers that you kind of are looking to do stuff through in the near future?
I would be completely honored if I ever worked with a dark horse. I think the types of things that they publish are so amazing, especially the indie artists that they work with. I just really respect them. They're so good. So I would love to work with Dark Horse. I would also, most of my work is set in like modern times and there's like cell phones and cars and that kind of thing. But I would love to write something based on like medieval like druids and Celts. I just think that would be super cool.
Yeah, I love that stuff. That's what I really love about that's what I love about the Hellboy universe. I don't know how much of you've read so far, but
Mhm.
I love how Magnolia just he all these old folklore tales and stuff, and he just pulls from so much of that throughout. I mean, how many years has he been? I mean, he's been doing it for what 20, I don't know, over 20 years, over 25 years. And it's just a lot of stuff. And I've read all of it. I absolutely adore it. So yeah, I definitely think that there's not enough of those kind of stories that you were touching on. And then, besides the Hellboy stuff that you said, Sandman stuff, what other stuff have you currently been reading or that you're currently digging, even if it's fellow indie cartoonists like yourself? Love to hear some stuff like that.
Yeah, so I love the artist Rebecca Kirby. She also graduated from the school that I went to, but like many years ago. She's on Instagram at Reweki. It's like Reweki, I think. Her work is really amazing. She does these like big watercolor paints that she turns into comics, and those are really cool. I would say that's probably my main recommendation.
Okay. Anything else you're reading though right now or is it just mainly the Sandman and Hellboy?
Yeah, so if I can mention things that aren't comics,
Of course, yeah.
I'm currently reading Female Masculinity by Jack Halberstam. It is a queer theory book about people who have previously or currently identify as women, but their gender identities are more complicated than that, and they have more masculinity than a typical woman would. And it's just super interesting. It's a dense read. It's difficult, but it is really interesting.
Okay. And then, like before we get out of here, I just want to kind of ask, like, what is the main takeaway that you want people to take from your work? Like, what is your main focus, your main goal in what you want to convey with every project that you're going to put out and that you have put out?
To be surprised and to embrace the feeling of being weirded out or creeped out or the heebie jeebies. I think work that is creepy and unsettling, but in a satisfying way, is some of the most interesting. So if someone who typically doesn't like the heebie jeebies
Mhm.
reads my work and then enjoys it, that would be amazing.
That's awesome. Awesome. I love that answer. And then, before I let you go, if you could just quickly, share where everybody can find you, find your work, and I will drop all those links down below.
Totally. Thank you so much. So my website is kmooradian.com. I'm at k.mooradian on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, which I think is also k.mooradian. On Twitter at cat.mooradian. Pretty much anywhere with a Mooradian on it, you're gonna find me.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for taking time to chat with me. I'm definitely excited to see all your work. If you got those zines still in print or anything, I definitely want to grab some of those because I really, really dig in your stuff. So,
Yeah, thank you so much.
yeah, of course. Talk to you soon.